Evolution of altruism and group cooperation. Our presentation will attempt to shed evolutionary light on the seemingly paradoxical phenomena of altruism and cooperation, often exhibited by humans and other animals. While limited by time, we will try to touch on the major points of these two traits, including sterile organisms, kin selection, and indirect reciprocity. On its face, altruism and group cooperation appear to be disadvantageous traits for organisms as they are reliant upon the loss of sharing resources. In reality, there are often indirect fitness benefits to the altruistic or cooperative organism that make such behaviors fitness enhancing. The three main topics we will touch upon are altruism, which is when an organism would be considered altruistic if its behavior benefits other organisms at the cost of itself. Kin selection, which occurs when an animal engages in self-sacrificial behavior that benefits the genetic fitness of its relatives. And finally, indirect reciprocity, where there is a cost associated with sacrifice, even if there is not a direct benefit, but it will show the group that you are a good member. Evolutionary model accounting for cooperative behavior. In 2006, a study done in the Journal of Evolutionary Biology by L. Keller and L. Lehman made headway of mathematical models to study cooperative behavior in an evolutionary model. They created framework for this model, which focused on four major points that would essentially provide a pathway for the many theoretical models that had been surfacing. The four major points are: the cooperative individual is directly benefited, attainable information on whether an individual will be cooperative in future repeated interactions, higher frequency interactions between genetically related individuals, and correlation between genes for altruism and genes for phenotypic identifiers of other altruistic individuals. They stated that at least one of these 4 points should be met when studying the conditions necessary for the evolution of altruism and cooperation. Following this study, they concluded that if one or more of the criteria is met, altruism or cooperation can evolve if the cost to benefit ratio of altruistic and cooperative acts is greater than a specific threshold value. The cost to benefit ratio can be altered by coercion, punishment, and policing, which therefore act as a mechanism facilitating the evolution of altruism and cooperation.
Furthermore, on the cost to benefit ratio of altruism and relatedness, W.D. Hamilton developed a model in the late 1960s, which stated that related individuals within a population are more likely to interact with each other, which will then force the evolution of altruism. This is shown with the formula in white, stating that organisms who are related will interact with each other as long as it does not overcome the cost to be altruistic. Alternative mechanisms against this include spatial selection, social diversity, social viscosity, and many more. Evidence for these mechanisms has been disproven by saying that the evidence of interaction of related individuals in each case also showed the evidence of altruistic evolution, proving Hamilton's model true.
While altruism and cooperation are often attributed to humans and other primates, it can be found in a wide array of organisms, including invertebrates like ants. Warner et al. Explains that the queen and worker ants share the same genome, yet differentially express certain genes, leading to traits specializing in reproduction or a worker job like nest defense or foraging. Because their genome is shared with the queen, it is evolutionarily beneficial for worker ants to aid in the survival of the queen, as the reproduction of the queen indirectly increases the fitness of the worker ants. Moreover, while the queen's traits are acted on directly by natural selection, the worker ants' traits are molded indirectly via kin selection through their aid of the queen. Warner et al. Studied patterns of molecular evolution in the pharaoh ant, Monomorium farinoensis. They found that upregulated genes in worker ants had reduced selection in relation to upregulated genes in reproductive ants, which is a genomic indication that kin selection is occurring. It was also determined that upregulated reproductive genes were older on average. Even more, they found that most of the genes associated with either reproductive or worker castes were primitive, implying that the ant caste system originates from recruiting ancient genes.
Diversity in worker ants. In a colony of the genus Eciton worker ants, there's a great morphological diversity, with certain individuals being more physically specialized to do certain tasks. However, it's not fully understood what ecological conditions select for this phenomenon. Powell and Franks, 2006, hypothesized that the fitness of the colony is a direct result of the increase in the fitness of the individual ants themselves, and that individual ants become more fit when morphologically different workers match with a task, resulting in a more efficient colony. They also found evidence that in the genus they were studying, dietary composition directly impacted the evolution of worker ant diversity. This was caused by ants that are transporting bigger loads, which the load was determined by the prey they were consuming, which selected for a more fit morphology.
The genetic underpinning of altruism, as described in the case of worker ants, suggests that altruism is not confined to the human species. However, it is a commonly held belief that humans have the most developed psychology with respect to altruistic tendencies. Further, many researchers previously believed that humans have a greater capacity to help when the costs are higher and the rewards are less apparent when compared to their sister taxa, chimpanzees. But are humans really unique in their ability to develop altruistic tendencies? The study completed by Warnikin et al. Noted altruistic behavior observed in chimpanzees just as much as human infants, thus indicating that humans are not the evolutionary root of moral tendencies. In the series of experiments conducted, young children and chimpanzee subjects were put in situations in which they had the choice to assist the human experimenter in a simple task, such as handing the experimenter an object that was out of reach. Following this, the relative frequencies of humans and chimpanzees performing these tasks were compared. The results demonstrated that motivation for altruistic behavior in humans is innate and requires little socialization. Further, chimpanzees acted on behalf of the human researcher, even though the human was unfamiliar and immediate rewards were withheld over repeated trials. Overall, this evidence points to the idea that the behavioral trait of human altruism could be traced to the last common ancestors of humans and chimpanzees, and not just humans.
While indirect reciprocity may not help you individually, it'll increase your standing with the group. Members won't be more likely to give you help when you lend out help. This in turn builds because as your experience with this grows, you can decide who's worth helping due to their standing in the group. Members choose wisely who they give their aid to because it'll be more beneficial to aid those who will be able to return the favor further down the line. Also, giving aid to everyone will also help your standing and benefit you because other members will recognize you as someone who is worth helping. This then comes into play with partner selection. Members will be more apt to choose a partner that will aid and benefit them rather than one who would not. Partner choice solves the instability problems that image scoring has and permits consistently high levels of cooperation, even in the smallest groupings, without direct reciprocation. All in all, kin selection was first conceived by Hamilton with his models on relatedness and development of altruism. Worker ants provide an example of how each ant in a population in the same genome and participates in kin selection. Although human capacity for altruism is commonly thought of as unique, the foundational genetic component of kin selection in recent studies with chimpanzees suggest otherwise. Again, indirect reciprocity will increase your standing with the group when you lend out help, but if you don't help, you will not receive it back. And these are our references.